Ever notice how ads always pop up at the worst moments? When the killer's identity is about to be revealed. During that perfect meditation flow. On Amazon Music, we believe in keeping you in the moment. That's why we've got millions of ad-free podcast episodes, so you can stay completely immersed in every story, every reveal, every breath. Download the Amazon Music app and start listening to your favorite podcasts ad-free, included with Prime.
Welcome to the Awakening Women Show. I'm your host, Leanne Oaten, a former counselor with a background in counseling psychology. I'm a mentor for high-achieving, ambitious women with over 13 years in the mental health and empowerment space. I've guided hundreds of women and have influenced over 100,000 through my platforms, podcast, and other courses, programs, and mentorship. I'm also the creator of the Relationship Clarity program, formerly known as End the Cycle, which you will hear me mention a lot of times as we go through the episodes. This program is to help women break free from destructive relationship cycles and come to clarity and power about their next step. This show is for the woman who knows her relationship struggles go deeper than the usual conflict. You know there's something more going on, but you can't quite nail it down or pinpoint what that is. You'll find clarity here, empowerment, truth, and validation. Clarity on whether your relationship can be healed or whether it's time to reclaim your life and move forward. What started as me sharing my own experiences quickly became a movement because the truth is, so many ambitious, successful women are stuck in confusing and draining relationship dynamics while trying to rise in every other area of their life, career, motherhood. This is you, you're not alone, and you don't have to keep living this way. Inside this podcast, you'll hear some of my most downloaded episodes, plus fresh content designed to help you break patterns, reclaim your wholeness, and decide once and for all if this relationship is where you belong. I'm so glad you found this space. Let's dive in. Welcome to this edition of the Awakening Women podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Oaten. And in this episode, we're talking about what those long marathon discussions or come to Jesus talks, what they're actually doing, and why it is that you keep engaging in them even though you know they don't end differently. We're going to get into that. Before I do, I want to point you towards something new I've created that is something that I've never done before. This is my teachings that I actually give clients when I'm working with them one-on-one. There's a lot of things that I've always felt like I could only deliver in a one-on-one basis because when I am working one-on-one, which is very rare, but when I am, it's very intuitive, and it always has been. And so I would draw upon certain tools or different directions that I would take the session based on my intuition. And so this is why my one-on-one work is often very, very quickly transforming for women who are ready for it. I haven't really put together some of the methods that I myself have been using to be able to put them into words that you could apply and experience shifts within yourself in a rapid period of time. And so I created the No More Self-Betrayal 8-part audio experience. I created these with the intent to help you move through an 8-phase process to help you shift in real time and start seeing where your unconscious paradigms, your unconscious patterning is keeping you feeling trapped in something that you might not even want to be in. You know, I hear women saying so many times, I'm fighting so hard for this relationship and I don't even like him. I don't even want his touch. I don't even want to have sex with him. I don't like who he is as a person. He actually disgusts me. And this is after a time because they have just been through the ringer so many times. They're very bitter and very resentful and angry, which makes sense. But then when we start to see that you have this awareness and you know this, that it's not good, and here you are having another 3-hour conversation, 4-hour conversation, 5-hour, maybe it goes on all day. Maybe it's a whole week that's completely shot because you're in one of those cycles of conflict and working on it. And it's just really intense and very heavy. It's hard to concentrate on your work. It's hard to show up effectively as a mother. You might let yourself and your self-care slide to the wayside where you're eating, maybe not, you're not eating things that don't make you feel great. And you're trying to numb out from the feelings. You might go shopping. You might immerse yourself more in work. There's a lot of ways that we can numb out and distract ourselves. But what I've seen with a lot of high achieving women is that they start to orchestrate these discussions, or they go through them as though they are leading some kind of board meeting. And it's almost funny because we can go at it with our clipboard of notes, thinking that this time I've got all these notes. I've written down all the things I need to talk about. I even quoted things that he said or texted that bothered me, and I've got it all compiled here in this one neatly written list. This time, he can't wiggle his way out of this. And so you end up in one of these long talks. So that could be initiated by you, or it could be started because he says or does something that hooks you into over-explaining or having to defend yourself, and then off it goes. So there's often these hooks, and they're unconscious. And so if you would like to dive into that 8-part series, it's only $22, and you can get access to it right now. I'll leave the link in the show notes so you can deep dive into that after you listen to the show, or pause it now and go grab it while you're thinking of it. And this is it's designed to help you start thinking differently, because we cannot operate differently if we're still thinking the same things. This is our paradigms. This is our programming. This means your automatic thinking patterns, the mental activity that's on autopilot, your habits, your emotional cycles. What goes on there needs to be shifted before you can start acting differently on the outside. But what I can tell you is when women come into my Clarity membership or work with me, a lot of times they shift through this very quickly. And even if you look at, if it's a few months, several months, when you look at how many years that you have been cycling through the same stuff, what if you could get this clarified once and for all? Are you staying? Are you going? Is this going to change because you're at a place where you know, I cannot do any more of these patterns? And you may not know that you're ready to leave yet. And that's where most women are when they come in. However, what they are done with is trying to find solutions that don't work. They're done with trying to fix the relationship and take it all on themselves and carry it on their own back. And so if you're ready for that kind of transformational shifts, that's what my work does. So if maybe you're listening to this and you can think of the last time, maybe it's very recent, that you had another one of those long conversations. And the thing about these is that they leave you every time, oftentimes, even if not right away, feeling like, okay, maybe this landed. Maybe this time it's going to change. Maybe this time it felt like he understood you or heard you, or he said things he's never said before, or maybe he apologized or admitted where he's gone wrong, or said things that made you think he had some insight into why he behaves or treats you the way that he does. So you're like, oh, well, maybe he has some awareness of why he does it. Great. He may have softened or admitted something that gave you just enough hope to think that maybe this is a turning point. Here we are. This is it. This is what I've been struggling for so long to get to. And unfortunately, that's not how it works. And when you get that false sense of hope, or that feeling like, oh, maybe this is going to be the turning point that I've been waiting for, is that now you feel emotionally gripped onto the feeling because it feels safer to believe that that progress is going to stick, rather than admit that you've actually been here before. And you can almost feel like you're living on edge with this hope and a high, almost emotional high. But then there's a part of you that feels sad because you know that it's not going to last, that there's going to be another cycle. There's something else is going to happen, and it always does. But remember that when you're operating from this old paradigm, the one that you're in now, this inner operating system that is causing you to hang on to that hope that this time it changes so that you can relax and be happy, that this is actually the internal belief system that has been running the show in the background. If you are one of, like many of the women I work with, they will say, I've been in 2 or 3 of these types of relationships in my life. Or I get messages where I'm out of the marriage and I just dated someone very much like him, or it started feeling like my marriage did, or he started gaslighting me, and luckily a lot of times we can maybe catch it early enough to get out, but not always. And so those re-traumatizations are actually very unhealthy. So I would really hope that women would come out and avoid that altogether, or be able to get the heck out of that right away. So when you have those internal programming systems running, then you keep going into the same patterns. This is true for relationships. It's true for health, success, money. All areas of our lives are run by our internal programming. What you believe or don't believe about money, health, success, relationships, love, how you deserve to be treated, your self-image, how you feel about yourself runs the show. And so when you're interpreting the emotional intensity or the fighting or the conflicts or the constant going at it head to head, you're thinking that it's some kind of movement happening or some kind of progress. This is what keeps you holding on. This is what keeps all the women. This would be the number one thing, the one area of stuck that I see women continually grapple with when I work with them. This is it right here. I have worked with women privately over the years that were in very volatile situations. They got out, and then what they will sometimes do is disappear. And then I always am like, oh boy, this cannot be good. I've always had that feeling and always care so much about my clients. Sometimes they disappear and never return, or they'll come back and say, well, we've reconciled. He's a totally different man. He's changing. And then shortly after that, they're like, well, actually, no, this is the same thing is happening. So like they say, it takes women 7 times to fully break away from abusive, toxic relationship patterns. And there's truth in that. And the reason why is because of exactly what I'm saying here. It's our inner programming. That's all it is. It's the inner programming. It's the addiction to the emotional patterning that needs to be broken. We have to shift that. This shifts by changing our automatic thought patterns, by learning how to think correctly, by changing our emotional patterns, and then lining those things up with our values and our vision and a healthier self-image that all comes together to move us in the direction of the vision. If you don't, it's like trying to travel somewhere that you've never been before without a map, or like I would use the Google Maps. I like being talked to. I don't like to look at maps. I like the voice directions. Which is probably why I love audiobooks and audios. But it's like that, right? It's trying to navigate without a destination. How often do you go somewhere without at least a destination that you want to get to? Do you just get on a plane and be like, well, let's just see where it goes? Sure, some people might, but you don't know where you're going to end up. So that's what it's like when you don't have any type of clarity of vision. And most women don't when they come to work with me, because it's not even something they've entertained for a second about their vision or what they want. And that's the problem. That right there is the biggest problem. They were too busy. Their vision is their man. They're too busy. Their whole entire emotional, mental life is wrapped up around what he's doing, what he's not doing. And they don't realize that they are subscribing to it, that they can also unsubscribe to it. You don't have to get locked into that. You don't have to get locked into those 5-hour-long conversations or those text wars that can go on for days. But you have to be able to recognize what the cycle is and what your part within that cycle really is. When we have learned that connection is restored through our emotional labor, from our really, really putting everything we have into trying to fix the situation, then we get to bypass that discomfort and have less of that fear of losing the relationship, because we feel like if the more intense we are getting the better outcome, then we just push harder and we try harder and we grip and force a situation that isn't really meant for us. And so every time there's some sort of a rupture and repair cycle, your nervous system experiences that repair as finally feeling safe, even if that same exact rupture keeps repeating. And as long as that program is running, you'll continue to interpret these emotionally intense conversations as potential meaningful change. And I hear this all the time. Oh, it seems like he's changed. He really is trying. I feel bad for planning my exit or leaving him now because now he's changing. And I'll say, so what has he changed? And they'll usually list some benign basic shit, right? Like bare minimum. And then that's when I will say, well, is that enough for you? Is that what you want? If it is, great. But what do you think their answer usually is? It's not what they want, but what they don't want is louder. They're focusing on what they don't want. This is what we have to shift. This is a lifetime of shifting. And then to keep them, you have to realize that you can't break this pattern that you're in by gathering more knowledge and information. It does not work that way. If it did, you would have this all figured out. You wouldn't be wondering what your next moves are because you've already been told what to do by all of the YouTubers and everything, right? And even this podcast, while I have definitely had countless women over the years message me that I've never heard from before, just land in my DMs, your podcast saved my life. Your podcast changed my life. I was able to leave and, they listed all that they could do because they listened to my podcast. So yes, it could certainly be that shift for some, but it doesn't mean that those same women didn't go on to repeat the pattern somewhere else. So that's the part that I'll never know. And we have to be committed. We have to make a decision that we are going to make this work our thing. Like that's what we're going to do. Like for me, when people say, what are your hobbies? I'm like, writing, studying, personal growth, listening to mentorship, taking coaching programs, reading, always learning. I live and breathe this stuff. I'm not even joking. And it's something I actually used to think was a bad thing because I don't know very many people that are quite as committed and dedicated to their self-growth as I am. And this is decades long. This isn't just once in a while I'm picking up a book. I have books everywhere, always going all the time. And it's something that I'm very passionate about. And this is what keeps me going in it, right? I think if you're doing something like this, you really have to love what you do. And even if things are shifting and I'm not doing the work exactly as I used to be, I'm not doing one-on-one coaching for women for relationship clarity. That's what I have the membership for now. But my passion is helping women evolve because the truth of it is it's not about him. It's not about a man. It's not about the money. It's not about any of that. It's about you have to become the version of you that is naturally aligned with that vision that you have for yourself. Once you become that version of yourself, that's when things start to happen. But when you're trying to make surface level changes without changing the inside, that's when things revert back. And I have seen that in my own life with many things where sure, you can have a temporary shift and have some successes, but if you don't change the internal paradigms and programming, then it's very likely for that to come right back in the same patterns. It's like the phenomena of the lottery winners that win big and then somewhere down the road they're broke back to where they were again because the money wasn't the problem. Like the lack of money, they thought the lack of money was the problem and they won the lottery and wow, my problems are fixed. But they kept on with the same spending patterns, the irresponsibility, not managing it well, maybe not investing any of it, not having, multiple streams of income beyond that. They just, they weren't thinking about it from a longevity standpoint. So even if you were able to get that clarity to walk away right now, you are actually very vulnerable to repeating those same patterns because you haven't done the inner work to become someone new. That is the reason why women end up in a string of these. It's not that every man out there is toxic and every man's a narcissist. The women that are talking like that, they're in their victim mentality and they haven't done the work. Because if you have done the work, you would be able to get out and then spot it a mile away and get out of Dodge from the first sign of an abusive personality. And so this is the work. And again, I touch on this in the private audio series that I created. And you're going to go through a process when you get inside of there. it is intentionally created so that you can experience a shift. And so some of the things that I'm talking about in there are why you can't think your way out of the pattern. That's in the first audio. And then we go into the real reason you keep waiting for him to change and it's not what you think it is. And then what happens when you stop explaining yourself. And I talk about why boundaries and continually trying to explain how he's hurt you and what he's done and why is the worst thing you can do. And we go into shifting from pattern to power. And then I talk about the energy, frequency, relationship, resonance patterning, and the body as your truth and subconscious as the driver. And then session 7 is the paradigm shift. You are not stuck. This one is very, very powerful because women will often say they feel stuck, but I don't believe that we get stuck. And so I talk about that in session 7. And then session 8, we wrap it up from clarity to action, boundaries, and strategy to move forward. And that is available to you right now. I'll put that in the show notes link here. And if you want more than that and you want to actually come into the community with other women who are making big moves, and I mean big moves, that they came in one way and have left a completely different woman, like left the relationship and moved out of the patterning because they are doing this work. And the work meaning being able to show up, being able to keep doing the things that are difficult, moving despite fear, not letting fear be the decision maker, and being able to move toward that vision and the things that they desire. And you don't go into this with, oh, my vision is so unrealistic. What I want is ridiculous. And you go telling people that don't have a vision, they don't have big aspirations, and they don't give you the encouragement. And so you go, yeah, maybe this is silly. Maybe it won't work. You need to be in an environment where someone's saying, hell yes, go for it. What are you waiting for? How about go bigger than that? Why are you thinking so small? That is what you need to be around right now, is that kind of energy, because you've been around such limiting mindsets. If you look at everyone in your life right now, I want you to identify who are the ones that are like your cheerleaders. They're out there doing shit too. They are trying to change their situation. They take ownership of their health. They are taking ownership of their money and their livelihoods and what they're allowing in their lives and what they're not. And you want to be around others that are doing that. You want to be around others that are moving through limitations in real time. And so if you're not around that and you're around people that maybe don't celebrate you, or they kind of sort of do, but you kind of feel like there's maybe a little bit of like, oh, who are you? Like, look at you. Or this is what marriage is, because they're stuck in their own shit. They don't want to look at it. When you leave a marriage, you will definitely be shining a mirror into other people's relationships that maybe they're not happy in, but they're not ready to do anything about it. And so that's confronting. And so then you feel afraid of being judged because you're now the single woman or the single mother. But the truth is that you should actually be very proud of yourself that you've chosen to face the truth and say, this isn't enough for me, and be able to choose yourself. Not everybody can do that. Not every woman does do that. And so choosing yourself doesn't always mean that you pack up and leave right away. Choosing yourself starts the moment that you decide that you're going to choose yourself, in every moment, in those moments when there's those conflicts or those points of tension or those points of friction, or when you feel compelled to go into old patterning, or just being willing to wake up and see your patterning. That's choosing yourself. And choosing yourself starts to shift everything. Your self-image, because right now you know that you're not choosing you. You know that you've put yourself on the bottom of the priority list. When I speak with women, they can go for a whole session about him, and their brain is just, their mind is not oriented toward self. And that is the work I do. The work I do is not about helping you stay or go, although that's the outcome. The outcome happens as a natural result of the woman becoming the version of her that has outgrown that dynamic. You get to a point where you're like, what am I even doing? Like, why am I settling for this bullshit. I am worth so much more than this, and this is just not enough for me. And even if there are good points or there's loss in that decision, of course, there will always be. It's that you realize, well, I'm better off living alone than being in something that I feel so alone in. It's causing so much chaos and friction in my life. And when you can start to actually see more clearly your part and what's not your part because you're doing your own work on your side of the street, that's when everything really starts to shift. So if you'd like to get into the Clarity membership, I'll put the link in the show notes as well for you to dive in. Bye for now.